My parents were extremely upset when I stopped being the family bank, but they didn't understand how far my sister had gone. Joking about me being the family bank was just that. A joke for them. But for me, it was reality. For 5 long years, I covered my sister Melissa's rent, utilities, and even chipped in for groceries after her husband left. He couldn't handle her difficult personality, and honestly, I couldn't really blame him. Melissa could be challenging, but she was still my sister. When our parents used the excuse of their golden years to avoid helping, the responsibility fell entirely on me. It wasn't easy. I'm not wealthy, just an average guy with a blue-collar job. Lucky if I get 1 vacation a year. Still, I kept telling myself, if I don't help her, who will? So I stepped up. I bought diapers when her daughter Ellie was a baby. I bought birthday presents every year. And last year I even got Ellie the tablet she needed for school. I gritted my teeth and convinced myself it was the right thing to do, even though it meant cutting back on things for myself. Then everything changed. About a year ago, Melissa got a decent job, a salaried position with benefits, finally taking the pressure off me. I figured I'd keep helping a little longer, just until she fully got back on her feet. What I didn't expect was for her to start showing up at family dinners bragging about the expensive things she was buying for herself. At first I stayed quiet. I told myself, maybe she deserved to enjoy life after all she'd been through. But last week, she crossed the line. At a family dinner with our parents, Uncle Rob, Ellie, and me, Melissa casually mentioned wanting to buy a designer purse. Not just any purse, but one costing over $5,000. I couldn't hold back anymore. So I'm helping you while you're spending hundreds on luxury items? I asked, keeping my voice calm but firm. Her response? Oh, don't be cheap, John. That hit like a slap in the face. Cheap? After 5 years of sacrifice, after all the things I had given up just to help her, something inside me snapped. But instead of losing my temper, I leaned back and took in the scene. Mom and Dad were suddenly very focused on their mashed potatoes. Melissa looked smug, like she had won some kind of prize. Only Uncle Rob looked genuinely uncomfortable. Cheap? I said finally. Let's talk about cheap. Let's talk about how I've been paying your rent while you're shopping for luxury goods. Let's talk about how our parents won't help, because they're busy enjoying their retirement, and I'm the one left handling everything. Well, guess what, Melissa? I'm done. No more rent, no more groceries, no more bills for Ellie. You're on your own. The room went silent. Uncle Rob leaned back in his chair and said, Way to go, John. You don't owe anyone anything. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. Before leaving, I turned back to Melissa. And if you think this is just me being angry for now, you're wrong. From now on, you'll be paying your own rent, your own bills, and buying your own groceries. As for Ellie, I hope she grows up to be better, but she's your responsibility, not mine. I walked out, with Uncle Rob following close behind. He patted me on the back and said he wished he had spoken up himself. His support meant a lot, but it didn't erase my anger. 5 years of sacrifice. And somehow I was the bad guy. I knew this was just the beginning. The fallout was going to be uglier than I could imagine. A week passed. I didn't hear a word from Melissa. I wasn't expecting a thank you, but I thought I'd at least get a dramatic text or voicemail. Instead, there was nothing. Oddly enough, the silence was more unsettling than a confrontation. Late one night, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't surprised to see my parents standing there, looking visibly upset. I let them in, expecting the lecture about family responsibilities. We need to talk about Melissa, my mom said sharply. Do we? I asked, leaning against the counter. She's struggling, John, my dad said. Ellie doesn't deserve to suffer because of your stubbornness. Don't punish the child. I let out a short laugh, not because I found it funny. Let me get this straight, I said. You too, who refuse to help because you're too busy with cruises and wine tastings, now want to guilt me into bailing her out again. Does that sound fair? That's not fair, Mom snapped. We're retired. You're young and capable. She's your sister. And she's your daughter, I shot back. Funny how that works. They didn't like that. The conversation spiraled into the usual guilt tripping. Family should always help family. I was heartless. Ellie was an innocent child. I listened for a while before cutting them off. If you care so much, why don't you start paying her bill? I asked, Mom scoffed. We don't enable her like you do. She needs to learn responsibility. Exactly, I said. And she's not going to learn anything if people keep rescuing her. Dad gave me a disappointed look, like I had just kicked a puppy. You're being cold, John. This isn't like you. Maybe not, I said, walking to the door and holding it open. But this is how it's going to be from now on. Thanks for stopping by. They left, grumbling under their breath. But I felt good about standing my ground. At least, I did, until 2 days later when the real bombshell dropped. Melissa called me out of the blue. I answered out of curiosity. What do you want? I asked. Her voice was strangely calm, almost cheerful. Just wanted to let you know I'm moving out of the apartment next month, she said. I frowned. You can't afford it without me. Oh, I can afford it, she replied, sounding smug. I just don't want to. I found something better. Better, I repeated, confused. You're moving to a nicer place. Not exactly, she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. I'm moving back in with Mom and Dad. That hit me like a punch in the gut. What? Yeah, they offered, she said casually, as if it were no big deal. They said they didn't want Ellie to suffer because of your little tantrum. So I'm putting my stuff in storage and moving into the guest room. Should be cozy. At first I was too stunned to react. All I could picture was Melissa lounging around at my parents' house, rent-free, while they enabled her behavior. Oh, and one more thing, she added, her voice thick with fake sweetness. You might want to check your credit report. Just a heads up. My stomach sank. What does that mean? I asked. She laughed. You'll find out. Bye, Johnny. I hung up and immediately logged into my credit account. What I saw made my blood run cold. There was a new credit card account in my name, with a balance that made my head spin, thousands of dollars charged at stores I had never even been to. All of it had been opened in the past 6 months. Melissa had been using my information to fund her shopping spree. That's when everything changed. Helping her was one thing. Being taken advantage of was something else entirely. This wasn't about cutting her off anymore. This was war. I stared at the screen, thousands of dollars of debt, all under my name. Designer stores, electronics, even airline tickets. It was all there. Melissa had been living a life of luxury at my expense, and I hadn't even noticed. I immediately called the credit card company to report the fraud, but the representative confirmed what I already suspected. The charges had been made using my name, address, and social security number. This wasn't just fraud, it was identity theft. After the call, I sat in stunned silence. Melissa had crossed a line I didn't think she was capable of crossing. I thought about Ellie, about how much I'd done for her, how much I'd sacrificed to make sure she had everything she needed. And now her mother had done this. I needed to calm down before I did something rash. So I called Uncle Rob, the only one at that family dinner who had seen the situation for what it really was. When I told him about the credit cards, he let out a low whistle. This is a whole new level of crap, John. What are you going to do? I don't know, I admit. If I press charges, Ellie gets caught in the middle. But if I don't, Melissa gets away with it. Look, Rob said, you're my nephew, so I'll support you either way. But you need to think this through. She's not going to stop unless someone makes her. He was right. I didn't want to hurt Ellie, but I couldn't let Melissa walk all over me. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about principle. The next day, I started putting my plan into motion. First, I contacted a lawyer. I needed clarity on my legal rights and my options. Melissa had made a serious mistake by using my name, without even bothering to cover her tracks. Every charge led directly back to her. The lawyer confirmed that I had a strong case if I chose to press charges. However, he suggested an alternative approach I hadn't considered, negotiating with her before involving the authorities. Sometimes the threat of legal action is enough to make people do the right thing, he explained. I doubted Melissa's ability to do the right thing, but I agreed to give it a try. That evening, I called her. She answered on the second ring, probably expecting another argument. Hey Johnny, she said carefully. What's up? Cut the nonsense, Melissa, I said firmly. I know about the credit cards. There was a long pause, then a nervous laugh. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb, I snapped. I've already reported the fraud, and I have a lawyer. You used my information to open those accounts. Every single charge is tied to your name. Her tone shifted immediately. Johnny, listen, it's not what you think. I was going to pay it back. Things got tight, and, save it, I interrupted. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay back every single cent of that debt. If you don't, I'll press charges and you can explain yourself to a judge. The choice is yours. Johnny, please, she begged. Ellie, don't drag her into this, I said sharply. She's the only reason you're even getting this chance. I hung up, hoping she'd take me seriously, though I doubted it. Melissa wasn't the type to accept responsibility without a fight. The next move was hers, but I was ready for whatever came next. To my surprise, a week later, I received a call from the credit card company. The accounts had been paid off in full. I felt a wave of relief and disbelief. Then I learned the full story, and the relief didn't last. Apparently, Melissa had gone to our parents for the money. They had drained their vacation fund, money they had been saving for a winter getaway to the Caribbean, to bail her out. When I heard about it, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the absurdity of the situation left me with no other choice but to laugh or scream. The very next day, my phone rang. It was Mom. I assumed she was calling to tell me the matter was resolved. I should have known better. Are you happy now? She snapped the moment I picked up. Excuse me? I said, caught off guard. You've ruined everything, she shouted. We had to give Melissa the money we were saving for our trip, and now we're stuck here all winter because of you. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. Let me get this straight, I said. I ruined everything. Not Melissa, who committed identity theft and racked up thousands of dollars in my name. Not you and Dad, who refused to help her for years and dumped all the responsibility on me. No, somehow it's my fault. You didn't have to threaten her like that, Mom argued. You could have handled this as a family. We tried, remember? I replied. For 5 years, I was the one handling things, and look where that got me. You didn't need to involve lawyers, John, she yelled. She's your sister, and I'm your son, I shouted. Funny how that doesn't seem to matter when it comes to me, does it? There was a moment of silence. Then in a cold voice, Mom said, You're not the man I thought you were. Good, I shot back. Because I'm finally the man I should have been all along, the kind who doesn't let his family walk all over him. The fallout was immediate. Mom and Dad were furious. Melissa painted herself as the victim, telling anyone who would listen that I had bullied her into paying back the money. Even Ellie got dragged into the mess, though I did my best to shield her from the drama. Uncle Rob, as always, had my back. Let them be mad, he said when I vented to him. You're the only one in this family with any common sense. Let them stew. But it wasn't that simple. Family dinners became unbearable. Mom barely spoke to me, and when she did, it was only to make pointed remarks about loyalty and forgiveness. The tension was palpable, and I couldn't help but wonder if things would ever return to normal. Dad kept his distance too, though he wasn't as vocal. As for Melissa, she acted like nothing had ever happened. She would show up with Ellie, laughing and smiling, like we were one big happy family, but every now and then, I'd catch her giving me a look, cold, calculating, like she was already planning her next move. The real blow came when I got a call from Ellie one evening. She asked if I could help her with a school project, and I was more than happy to say yes. But as we talked, she hesitated, then said something that shattered my heart. Uncle John, are you mad at me? No, honey, I replied quickly. Why would you think that? Mom says you won't help us anymore because you're mad at her. But I didn't do anything wrong, did I? I felt a lump form in my throat. No, Ellie, you haven't done anything wrong, and I'll always be here for you, no matter what, I said, trying to reassure her. Okay, she replied softly. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall. I didn't want to give in to Melissa's manipulations. I couldn't, but I also realized that this wasn't just about me or Melissa anymore. There were deeper issues in our family that I hadn't been willing to face before, and solving them would be anything but easy, if it was even possible. The tension in our family only grew worse after that. Every gathering became a minefield of passive-aggressive remarks and cold silences. Melissa leaned into her role as a victim, playing the part of the struggling single mom who had been unfairly treated. Mom and Dad weren't much better. Every time I saw them, they managed to slip in a comment about family loyalty, or how hard it was for them to watch Melissa struggle. Never mind that her struggle involved living rent-free in their house, eating their food, and doing very little else. The breaking point came at Ellie's school play a few weeks later. Melissa had mentioned the event, and of course I went. I refused to let my issues with her affect my relationship with Ellie. During the performance, Ellie was on stage, singing with her classmates, and I could see how proud she was when she spotted me in the audience.
After the play, we all gathered in the school gym for refreshments. Ellie ran up to me, beaming, and I handed her a small bouquet of flowers I had picked up along the way. "Thanks, Uncle John," she said, wrapping me in a big hug. Melissa appeared a moment later, her expression sour as ever. "Really, John? Flowers? Are you trying to buy her love now?" I ignored her and focused on Ellie. "You were amazing up there, kid. I'm so proud of you." Ellie smiled, but Melissa wasn't done. She crossed her arms and said loudly, "You know, it's funny how you can afford flowers, but you couldn't find it in your heart to keep helping your family." A few people nearby turned to look, and I felt my face flush. "Are you serious? Doing this now, Melissa?" I asked quietly. "Why not?" she shot back. "You've already humiliated me in front of everyone. Might as well make it a full set." I sighed and turned to leave, but her next words froze me in my tracks. "Ellie deserves better," she said sharply. "She deserves an uncle who actually cares about her, not someone who uses her to make himself feel better." I turned back, my voice low but firm. "You don't get to play that card, Melissa, not after everything you've done, and I'm not going to stand here while you try to turn Ellie against me. She's not stupid. One day she'll see the truth." With that, I walked out, unwilling to say more. The fallout from that scene was swift. The next morning, Mom called me, furious. "How could you humiliate your sister like that at Ellie's recital of all places?" she demanded. "Did she tell you what she said to me?" I asked. "It doesn't matter," Mom snapped. "You're supposed to be the bigger person." "I've been the bigger person for 5 years," I said, my frustration boiling over. "And where has it gotten me?" "Nowhere." "Well, you've made your point," she said coldly. "You can stop punishing her now." "This isn't punishment," I replied. "It's consequence. Maybe if you and Dad had taught her that when we were kids, we wouldn't be in this mess." She hung up, and I didn't hear from her for days. A week later, something unexpected happened. Ellie appeared at my door, a backpack slung over her shoulder, tears welling up in her eyes. "Mom says I can't call you anymore," she said softly, "but I don't want to stop seeing you." My heart shattered all over again. I knelt down and wrapped her in a tight hug. "You're always welcome here, Ellie. Always." "I don't want to go back," she whispered. I froze. "What do you mean?" "I hate it there," she said. "Mom and Grandma are always fighting, and they're always talking about you. I just want to stay here with you." I didn't know what to say. I wasn't prepared for this. But one thing was certain. I wouldn't let Ellie get caught in the middle of this mess any more than she already had. "Come inside," I said gently. "We'll figure this out." And with that, everything changed. Ellie sat on my couch, clutching a cup of hot cocoa I had made for her, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. She had always been such a bright, confident child, but tonight she seemed lost. It wasn't just the fighting at home, it was years of being caught between adults who should have done better. We talked for hours, just the two of us. I asked her about school, her friends, and her favorite books, hoping to make her feel comfortable. Gradually, she began to open up about what was really bothering her. "Why does everyone fight so much?" she asked quietly. "Why can't we all just get along?" I took a deep breath, unsure how to explain. "Sometimes adults make mistakes. Big ones," I said. "And when we don't fix them, they can hurt the people around us. That's what happened with your mom and me. But none of this is your fault, Ellie. Do you understand that?" She nodded slightly but still looked unsure. "Mom says you hate us." A sharp pang hit me. "Ellie, I don't hate anyone," I said firmly. "I love you, and I want what's best for you. That's why I've had to make some hard decisions lately. It's not easy, but sometimes doing the right thing means not letting people take advantage of you, even if they're family." She stared into her cocoa, processing my words. "So, you're not mad at me?" I shook my head. "Never. You're the best part of this family, and I want you to remember something, okay? When you grow up, you'll have to make tough decisions too. People might try to push you around or make you feel small, but you don't have to let them. You're strong, Ellie, stronger than you know, and you can always stand up for yourself." For the first time that night, she smiled just a little, but it gave me hope. When it was time to take her home, she hesitated, clearly reluctant to leave. I reassured her, "No matter what your mom says, I'll always be here for you." We pulled up to my parents' house, and as soon as we stepped out of the car, Melissa stormed out the door. "What is she doing here?" she demanded, glaring at me. "Relax," I replied. I told Melissa that Ellie needed some space, so we talked, and now I'm bringing her home. Melissa started to argue, but Ellie stepped forward. "Mom, stop. I wanted to see Uncle John." That silenced her for once. Melissa looked genuinely surprised. Before I left, I gave Ellie one more hug and whispered, remember what I said, you're strong. She nodded, her expression determined. In the months that followed, things didn't magically improve, but there were small signs of progress. Ellie began standing up for herself more, even with Melissa. She insisted on calling me regularly, and eventually, Melissa gave up trying to stop her. As for me, I stuck to my boundaries. My relationship with my parents remained strained, but I didn't regret my choices. After years of being the family doormat, I refused to go back to that role. The biggest surprise came from Uncle Rob. He started reaching out to Ellie, helping her with school projects, and taking her out for ice cream when things got rough at home. It didn't fix everything, but it gave Ellie another safe place to turn to. I continued to see Ellie as often as I could, and each time I reminded her of the same thing. She was strong, she was smart, and she didn't have to let anyone push her around. Melissa never apologized, and I didn't expect her to, but I didn't need her to. In the end, I had done what I needed to do for myself and for Ellie, and that was enough. A few weeks later, Ellie sent me a hand-drawn card. Inside it said, "Thank you for always believing in me. I'll always remember what you said. I'm strong." It wasn't much, but it reminded me that standing my ground had been worth it.